The Great Hall of the Galactic Senate was the largest room in the known universe. Its ceiling stretched so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Thousands of floating platforms carried delegates from every corner of space. Blue lights, golden lights, and colors that had no name danced across the walls. On the highest platform of all sat Queen Veyara of the Thessian Dominion. She was magnificent. Her body was covered in scales that shifted color with her mood. Right now, they glowed a calm silver, showing everyone that she was in control. Her 4 eyes scanned the room with the patience of a predator who had never known fear. 2 curved horns rose from her head like a crown made of bone. For 300 years, she had ruled the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Kings begged for her attention. Warlords trembled at her name. She had fought in 30 wars and won them all. Her people controlled more planets than any other species in history. Today was supposed to be a simple day. A boring day. Some small delegation from a minor species wanted to ask for trading rights. Her ministers had told her it would take only a few minutes. The minor species was humanity. Veyara barely paid attention as the human ship docked at the Senate station. Humans were not important. They lived on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy. They had joined the galactic community only 200 years ago, which made them babies compared to species like the Thessians. Worse, they had withdrawn from galactic politics 50 years ago, after some trade dispute. Nobody really understood humans. They were soft, weak creatures. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. They died after only 100 years, which seemed like a cruel joke. What could any creature accomplish in such a short time? "The human delegation has arrived, Your Majesty," announced her chief minister, a tall Thessian named Koreth. "Shall I send them away with a standard rejection?" Veyara considered this. Rejecting them would be easy. But something made her pause. Perhaps it was boredom. Perhaps it was curiosity about why these strange creatures had finally returned to galactic affairs. "No," she said. "Let them speak. It will be amusing." The delegation entered through the main doors, far below her platform. There were only 5 of them, dressed in simple gray uniforms. They looked even smaller than she remembered humans being. Fragile, breakable. Their leader walked at the front. He was older than the others, with gray and white mixed into his dark hair. Deep lines crossed his face like rivers carved into stone. He moved slowly but steadily, like someone who had learned patience through hard experience. Veyara watched with mild interest as they approached the speaking platform. Her ministers began the formal introductions, listing the many titles and honors of the Thessian Empire. The humans waited respectfully. Finally, the lead human was permitted to speak. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice calm and clear. "My name is Marcus Chen. I represent the United Earth Coalition. We come seeking passage rights through Thessian space for our merchant vessels. A simple request. Boring." Veyara was about to signal her ministers to handle the matter when the human did something unexpected. He removed his hood, and Queen Veyara, who had faced armies without flinching, who had stared down assassins without blinking, felt her 4 hearts stop beating. She knew that face. 30 years had passed. His hair had turned gray, his skin had wrinkled. But those eyes were the same. Brown like the wood of ancient trees. Warm like sunlight, kind in a way that made no sense for someone who had seen what he had seen. Marcus Chen. The memories crashed into her mind like a wave breaking against rocks. Suddenly, she was not a queen anymore. She was a young girl, barely past her first century, trapped in a burning space station at the edge of nowhere. Outpost Sigma 9. The attack had come without warning. Pirates, they said later, or terrorists. Nobody ever found out for sure. All Veyara remembered was the explosion that threw her across the room, the terrible pain in her legs, the fire spreading everywhere, the screams of the dying. She had been the daughter of a minor ambassador then. Nobody important. Nobody worth saving. The evacuation ships were already leaving. She could hear their engines through the broken walls. She was going to die alone in the dark. Then he appeared. A human. A young human officer from the small Earth contingent on the station. He was bleeding from a wound on his head. His uniform was torn and burned. He should have been running toward the escape pods like everyone else. Instead, he ran toward her. "It's okay," he said in broken Thessian language. "I've got you. I've got you." He lifted her onto his back. She was twice his size, but somehow he carried her, through corridors filled with smoke, past fires that burned so hot they melted metal. Through 3 kilometers of hell, she remembered his breathing, harsh and desperate. She remembered his heartbeat, fast but steady. She remembered his voice, whispering words she didn't understand in his human language. Prayers, maybe. Or promises. He carried her all the way to the last escape pod. He pushed her inside. And then the ceiling collapsed between them. She never saw him again. Until now, Marcus Chen looked up at her throne. Across 30 years and 1,000 light years, his eyes met hers. And he smiled. Not a smile of greed or expectation. Just a simple, warm smile of recognition. "Your Majesty," he said again, bowing with perfect respect. The entire Senate was watching. Her ministers were confused by her silence. But Vayara could not speak, could not move, could not breathe. Her greatest secret had just walked back into her life, and nothing would ever be the same again. The private meeting chamber was hidden deep inside the Senate station. No windows, no cameras. Only cold metal walls and a single light hanging from the ceiling. This was where Queen Vayara held conversations that nobody else could hear. She had ordered the room set to Thessian temperature, cold enough to make ice form on the walls, cold enough to hurt any creature not born on her frozen homeworld. It was a small cruelty. A test to see if the human would complain. Marcus Chen did not complain. He stood in the center of the room, his breath forming small clouds in the frozen air. His old body must have been screaming in pain, but his face showed nothing. He simply waited, hands clasped behind his back, watching her with those impossibly calm eyes. Vayara circled him slowly. Her claws clicked against the metal floor. In this room, she was not a diplomat. She was a predator, examining prey. "You should be dead," she said finally. Her voice echoed off the walls. The official report said there were no human survivors from Sigma-9. "I checked those reports myself. Many times. The reports were wrong, Your Majesty." Marcus did not move, did not look away. "Your rescue teams were looking for Thessian survivors. They found what they were looking for. They did not look for anything else." The words hit Vayara like a slap. She remembered that terrible day. The rescue ship. The Thessian doctors surrounding her. She had tried to speak, tried to tell them about the human who saved her. But she was young then, injured, delirious with pain. The doctors had given her medicine to make her sleep. When she woke up, the station was classified as a total loss. All human personnel listed as dead. Case closed. "I looked for you," she said quietly. The admission cost her more than she wanted to show. "When I recovered, when I grew stronger, I searched the records for any sign that you survived." "I know." Marcus reached slowly into his coat. Vayara's guards tensed, but she waved them back. The human pulled out a small object and held it up to the light. It was a medal, Thessian design. The crest of honor, given only to those who showed exceptional bravery. The medal was old and scratched, but Vayara recognized it immediately. She had ordered that medal created herself. 12 years after Sigma-9, Marcus said. "A Thessian intelligence officer found me on a mining colony in the outer systems. He gave me this medal. He said it came from someone who wanted to thank me, but could not do so publicly." Vayara remembered. She had sent that officer in secret. By then, she was already rising in power, already building the reputation that would one day make her queen. A public acknowledgement of debt to a human would have destroyed everything, so she had sent a medal instead. A quiet thank you. A secret between two strangers. "Why did you never come forward?" she demanded. "You had proof of what happened. You could have used it against me. Demanded money, demanded power, demanded anything." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a mocking laugh. Not a cruel laugh. Just a soft, tired sound of genuine amusement. "Your Majesty," he said, "I was 26 years old when I carried you out of that station. I am now 73. In all those years, I never once thought about using that night against you. Also, why not?" Vayara could not understand. Every Thessian would have leveraged such an advantage. Every species she knew would have demanded payment. You could have become rich, famous, powerful, because that was not why I saved you. The simple answer silenced her. Marcus stepped closer. For the first time, Vayara saw the full weight of years on his face. The wrinkles around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the slight trembling in his hands. Humans aged so quickly, they burned through their short lives like candles in the wind. "I saved you because you were hurt and scared and alone," he said. "Because I could help. Because it was the right thing to do. There was no plan, no calculation, no thought of future reward." He smiled softly. "Humans do not save lives to collect debts, Your Majesty. We save lives because that is who we are." Vayara stared at him. In 300 years of ruling, she had met thousands of diplomats, generals, kings, and criminals. She had learned to read lies in every twitch of muscle, every shift of eye. She was never wrong. Marcus Chen was telling the truth. "Then why are you here now?" she asked. "After all these years of silence, all these years of asking for nothing. Why come to me today?" The warmth faded from Marcus's face. Something harder took its place. Something Vayara recognized from long ago. The look of a man preparing to walk into fire. "Because my people are dying," he said. "And I have nowhere else to turn." He pulled a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. Holographic images filled the air between them. Planets burning, cities crumbling, ships exploding in the darkness of space. "The Vorith Collective," Marcus said. "Machine intelligence from beyond the galactic rim. They have been attacking human colonies for 10 years. Not conquering, harvesting. They take our people, and they do not give them back." Vayara studied the images with growing unease. She had heard rumors of the Vorith. Distant threats. Nothing that concerned the Thessian Empire. 17 colonies gone, Marcus continued. 2 billion people. Men. Women. Children. All taken. His voice cracked slightly. "We have fought them with everything we have, but we are losing. Badly." He looked up at her, and in his eyes, she saw something she had never expected to see. Hope. "I am not here to collect a debt, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "I am here to ask for help, not for myself, for my people. For the children who will die if someone does not stand with us." He knelt before her. A human, kneeling before a Thessian queen. It should have looked weak. Instead, it looked like the bravest thing Vayara had ever seen. "Please," Marcus Chen whispered. "Help us." The holographic images floated in the air like ghosts. Burning cities, screaming people, ships falling from the sky like dead birds. Vayara watched them all with growing horror. Marcus had prepared well. Every image told a story. Every number carried weight. The Vorith Collective was not just dangerous. It was a plague made of metal and wire. It moved through human space like a disease, taking everything and leaving nothing behind. "Show me the tactical data," Vayara commanded. Marcus pressed more buttons. New images appeared. Star maps covered in red marks. Each mark was a human colony that had been attacked. The pattern was clear. The Vorith were moving inward, closer to Earth with every passing year. "They do not negotiate," Marcus explained. "They do not respond to messages. They simply arrive, harvest what they need, and leave. Our weapons cannot penetrate their shields. Our ships cannot match their speed. Every battle ends the same way." "What do they want?" Vayara asked. "What are they harvesting?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with pain. "People. They harvest people. Specifically, they harvest human brains. Veyara's scales shifted to a dark purple, a sign of disgust. Our scientists believe human neural tissue has properties the Vorath need for their expansion, Marcus continued. Something about the way our brains process information. They take our people alive. He stopped, closed his eyes. They do not treat them kindly. The chamber fell silent. Even Veyara's guards, trained to show no emotion, shifted uncomfortably. Why has the Senate not responded? Veyara asked. Surely other species have noticed this threat. We asked for help 5 years ago. The Senate voted against intervention. Marcus's voice carried a bitter edge. Humanity withdrew from galactic politics. We have no allies, no treaties. The other species decided our problem was not their concern. Veyara understood. The galaxy was cold. Species looked after their own interests. A dying human colony on the far edge of space meant nothing to empires worried about trade routes and resource rights. But she also understood something else. She pulled up the star maps again and traced the Vorath's path with one claw. If they finish with humanity, she said slowly, they will need new sources, new brains to harvest. A Mender sign. Saint-Ten's sign. Yes. Marcus nodded. Our scientists estimate 50 years before they exhaust human populations. Then they will look for alternatives. He met her eyes. Thessian neural structure is remarkably similar to human. The threat hung in the air between them. This was not just a human problem. This was a galactic problem. The Vorath would not stop until someone stopped them. You want me to bring this before the Senate again, Veyara said. Use my influence to force another vote. No, Your Majesty. Marcus shook his head. The Senate will never agree. Too much politics. Too many old grudges. By the time they finish debating, my people will be gone. Then what do you want? Marcus took a deep breath. He looked like a man about to jump off a cliff. I want you to act alone. Commit Thessian forces without Senate approval. Join us in the fight against the Vorath before it is too late. The words hit Veyara like a physical blow. Act alone, without Senate approval. It was unthinkable. The Galactic Senate had existed for 10,000 years. Its rules held the galaxy together. Any species that broke those rules faced consequences. Sanctions, isolation, war. You are asking me to risk everything, Veyara said quietly. My throne, my empire, the safety of my people. Yes. Marcus did not look away. I am. My own ministers would turn against me. The other empires would see it as aggression. I could lose everything I have spent 3 centuries building. Yes, and you think I should do this because you once saved my life? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his coat and pulled out something small. A piece of metal, twisted and blackened by fire. He placed it in her hand. Veyara recognized it immediately. A fragment of the bulkhead from Sigma 9. The section Marcus had torn through with his bare hands to reach her. That night, Marcus said softly, while I was carrying you through the fire, you said something to me. You probably do not remember. You were barely conscious. Veyara tried to think back. The memories were blurry. Pain and smoke and fear all mixed together. You said that Thessians do not owe debts. You said Thessians become debts. You carry them until they shape you into who you must be. The words struck something deep inside her. Her grandmother's teaching, ancient wisdom passed down through generations. She had spoken those words without thinking, repeating lessons learned in childhood. I have carried this piece of metal for 30 years, Marcus continued. And I have thought about those words every single day. You did not owe me anything, Veyara. But you became something. You became a queen who could change the galaxy. He stepped back from her. I am not here to collect a debt. I am here to ask you a question. His eyes locked onto hers. Who do you want to be? The queen who played it safe? Or the queen who did what was right when it mattered most? Vayara looked at the twisted metal in her hand. She thought about the girl she had been, the queen she had become, the leader she could still choose to be. Outside this room, her empire waited. Her ministers, her generals, her people. All of them expecting her to make the safe choice. The smart choice. The choice that protected Thessian interests above all else. But Marcus Chen had not made the safe choice 30 years ago. He had chosen to save a stranger. He had chosen to be brave when being brave could have killed him. "I need time," she said finally. "To think. To plan." Marcus bowed his head. "Thank you, Your Majesty. That is all I ask." But as he turned to leave, Vayara called out to him. "Marcus." He stopped. "I remember," she said quietly. "I remember everything about that night. I never forgot." For just a moment, the old soldier smiled. Then he walked out the door, leaving Vayara alone with the most impossible choice of her life. The Thessian High Council chamber was a place of ancient power, stone walls carved with the names of every ruler who had ever sat on the throne, cold blue flames burning in bowls of sacred metal, 17 ministers seated in a half-circle, their scales glittering like jewels in the firelight. Vayara stood before them. Not on her throne, not above them. She had chosen to stand on the floor, at their level. It was a break from tradition that made several ministers gasp. "Your Majesty," said Minister Korath, the eldest of the council. "This is highly unusual. Why have you called an emergency session?" Vayara looked at each of them in turn. These were the most powerful Thessians in the empire. Generals who commanded millions of soldiers. Nobles who controlled entire star systems. Politicians who had survived centuries of palace intrigue. They would not like what she was about to say. "I have decided to commit our forces to the defense of humanity," she announced. "We will fight alongside them against the Vorith Collective." Silence. Then chaos. Ministers leaped to their feet. Voices shouted over each other. The ancient chamber, which had seen 10,000 years of calm debate, erupted into madness. "Impossible!" roared Admiral Thessak, commander of the Imperial fleet. "We cannot risk our ships for a species that means nothing to us." "The Senate will never approve," shouted Minister Valen, chief of foreign affairs. "We will be isolated, sanctioned. Our trade routes will collapse." "This is madness," cried Lord Korath. "What has happened to you, Your Majesty? Have you lost your mind?" Vayara let them rage. She stood like a statue in the center of the storm, waiting. Her scales had shifted to deep black, the color of absolute authority. The color worn by queens who would not be questioned. One by one, the ministers noticed. One by one, they fell silent. Fear crept into their eyes. "Are you finished?" Vayara asked coldly. Nobody spoke. "Good." She began to pace slowly around the chamber. "Let me tell you a story. A story that none of you have ever heard." She told them about Sigma 9. About the fire and the fear. About the human who had carried her through 3 kilometers of burning corridors. About the debt she had carried in secret for 30 years. When she finished, the chamber was completely still. "You built your careers on my strength," Vayara continued. "You followed me because I was powerful, undefeated, unbreakable." She stopped in the center of the room. "But I was only alive to be those things because a human chose to save me. Everything I have built, everything you have gained from serving me, exists because of Marcus Chen." Minister Valen shifted uncomfortably. "Your Majesty, we understand your personal feelings. But we cannot base imperial policy on gratitude." "You think this is about gratitude?" Vayara laughed. It was not a kind sound. "Look at the tactical data. Really look at it." 1. She activated the holographic displays. Star maps filled the air. Red marks showed every human colony the Vorith had attacked. A projected line showed their future path. 50 years, Vayara said. "That is how long, until the Vorith finish with humanity. Then they will need new sources of neural tissue. And they will come for us. Admiral Thesak studied the maps with narrowed eyes. Our borders are far from their current position. We would have time to prepare. Would we? Viara pulled up more data. The Vorith learn from every battle. They adapt. By the time they reach us, they will have studied human tactics for decades. They will know every weakness of organic species. They will be unstoppable. She let that sink in. But there is another option. She changed the display. New schematics appeared. Technical drawings that made several ministers lean forward with interest. Human weapons technology. Specifically, their nuclear pulse drives. Primitive, scoffed Admiral Thesak. We abandoned such technology centuries ago. Yes, because we developed gravitational manipulation instead. But the Vorith shields are designed to deflect gravitational weapons. They have never encountered nuclear pulse technology. Viara smiled grimly. Alone, neither technology can breach Vorith defenses. But together, she combined the schematics. The math was beautiful. Human nuclear pulses creating shock waves that Thessian gravitational fields could amplify 1,000-fold. Enough force to crack any shield ever created. Admiral Thesak stared at the calculations. His expression slowly changed from doubt to wonder. This could work, he admitted quietly. It will work, Viara said. But only if we act now. Only if we stand with the humans before it is too late. Only if we choose to fight, instead of hiding behind Senate rules and old fears. She turned to face all of them. I know what I am asking. I know the risks. The Senate may punish us. Other empires may turn against us. Everything we have built could crumble. She paused. But 30 years ago, a human risked everything to save a stranger. He did not calculate the odds. He did not worry about what he might lose. He simply saw someone who needed help and chose to help. Her voice softened. I have spent 3 centuries being the queen you expected me to be. Strong, cold, calculating. But tonight, I am choosing to be something different. I am choosing to be the queen Marcus Chen believed I could become. She raised her hand. Vote, support this mission, and we change history. Oppose it, and I will act alone, as is my right as absolute monarch. But I would rather have you beside me. The chamber was silent. Ministers looked at each other. Fear and uncertainty passed between them like a disease. Then Admiral Thesak stood. I have served this throne for 200 years, he said slowly. I have never heard a ruler speak like this. It is terrifying. He paused. But it is also the most honest thing I have ever witnessed in this chamber. He placed his hand over his heart. The Thessian gesture of absolute loyalty. My fleet stands with you, Your Majesty. One by one, the other ministers rose. One by one, they made the same gesture. Not all of them, but enough. Viara felt something she had not felt in decades. Hope. Then it begins, she said. Summon Marcus Chen. We have a war to plan. The Battle of the Vorith Threshold would be remembered for 10,000 years. 17. Thessian dreadnoughts hung in the darkness of space. Their hulls glittered like mountains made of silver. Behind them, 42 human destroyer ships waited in formation, small and ugly compared to Thessian beauty, but deadly in their own way. On the bridge of the flagship, Queen Viara stood at the command center. Her scales had shifted to bright gold, the color of war, the color of a queen ready to fight. Beside her stood Marcus Chen. He looked tired. The journey had been hard on his old body, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He watched the tactical displays with the focus of a man who had waited 30 years for this moment. The Vorith fleet is approaching, announced Admiral Thesak. 200 harvester ships, 50 destroyer units, the largest force we have ever seen. Viara studied the enemy formation. The Vorith ships were strange and terrible. Black metal twisted into shapes that hurt the eyes. No windows. No lights, just cold, dead machines hungry for living minds. They are not slowing down, Thesak continued. They do not expect resistance. They think this will be easy. Good, Vayara said. Let them think that. She turned to Marcus. Are your people ready? Marcus nodded. The nuclear charges are loaded. Targeting systems are linked to your gravitational arrays. We have practiced this maneuver 100 times. He paused. But we have never tried it in actual combat. Then today we learned together. Vayara placed her hand on his shoulder. A gesture of trust that shocked every Thessian on the bridge. Queens did not touch outsiders. But Vayara was done following old rules. The Vorith fleet came closer. 10,000 kilometers. 5,000. 1,000. They are launching harvesters, Thessak reported. Small attack craft, hundreds of them. Vayara watched the swarm of enemy ships spreading across the void. Each one carried machines designed to capture living beings, to steal their minds, to turn people into fuel for a soulless empire. First wave, she commanded. Engage. Thessian ships opened fire. Gravitational beams lanced through space, bending light and matter. They struck the Vorith shields and scattered like water hitting stone. No effect, Thessak growled. Their shields are holding. Expected, Vayara said calmly. Continue firing. Draw their attention. The battle raged. Thessian ships danced through space, dodging enemy fire, keeping the Vorith focused on them. It was a dangerous game. 3 Thessian vessels were hit in the first hour. Their crews died instantly, crushed by weapons that twisted gravity into knives. But the Vorith were focused now, all their attention on the Thessian threat. They did not notice the human ships moving into position behind them. Now, Vayara said quietly. Marcus spoke into his communicator. All human vessels. Execute Thunder Protocol. 42 human ships launched their payloads simultaneously. Nuclear charges, specially modified, streaked toward the Vorith fleet. The machines detected them too late. Their shields were facing the wrong direction. The charges detonated. Space itself seemed to scream. Waves of nuclear fire washed over the Vorith ships. Alone, the explosions would have done nothing. The enemy shields would have absorbed them easily. But the Thessian gravitational arrays were waiting. Amplify, Vayara commanded. Every Thessian ship focused their gravitational beams on the nuclear shockwaves. The energy multiplied, doubled, tripled, grew 1,000-fold in the space of a heartbeat. The combined force hit the Vorith fleet like the fist of an angry god. Shields shattered. Hulls cracked. Ships that had never known defeat crumbled into dust and fire. The darkness of space lit up with 100 explosions. Direct hits on 60% of enemy vessels, Thessak reported. His voice trembled with disbelief. Their formation is breaking. Again, Vayara ordered. Do not let them recover. The battle lasted 3 days. 3 days of fire and death and desperate courage. Thessians and humans fighting side by side, sharing tactics, covering each other's weaknesses, dying for each other without hesitation. Vayara lost her youngest nephew when his ship was destroyed by a Vorith destroyer. Marcus watched 17 of his closest friends die in a boarding action that saved 3 Thessian vessels. The cost was terrible, but slowly, surely, the tide turned. On the 3rd day, the last Vorith command ship exploded. Its death scream echoed across every radio frequency. Then, silence fell. The Vorith collective was broken. The survivors did not celebrate. They were too tired, too wounded, too aware of everything they had lost. Vayara found Marcus on the observation deck, staring at the stars. His face was pale. His hands shook. He looked like a man who had given everything he had. We won, she said softly. Yes, Marcus did not turn around. We won. Vayara stood beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. You are not going to see what comes next, are you? She asked finally. Marcus shook his head. The doctors say 6 months, maybe less. Too much radiation from the old campaigns. Too many years of fighting. He smiled weakly. I always knew it would catch up eventually. Vayara felt something break inside her chest. Come to Thessia. Our medical technology. No. Marcus finally turned to look at her. Despite everything, his eyes were still warm, still kind. I have had a good life, Vayara. Better than I deserved. I got to see my people safe. I got to see you become the leader I always knew you could be. He reached out and took her hand. That is enough. It is not enough for me. Her voice cracked. You saved my life. You changed everything. And now you are just going to leave? Marcus squeezed her hand gently. That is what humans do, he said. We burn bright and fast. We show up when we are needed. And when our time is done, we leave behind the light we created. He pulled her into an embrace, soft, warm, human. The alliance we built today will last for thousands of years, he whispered. Children will grow up in peace because of what we did. They will never know my name. But they will know yours. They will know that a Thessian queen chose to be brave when it mattered most. He stepped back and smiled one last time. That is not a tragedy, Vayara. That is the whole point. Marcus Chen died 4 months later, on a quiet morning in the Thessian capital. Queen Vayara declared a day of mourning across the entire empire. The first time such an honor had ever been given to a non-Thessian. When her ministers questioned it, she silenced them with a single sentence. He taught us what courage truly means. We will remember. 50 years later, when historians asked her to name the most important moment of her reign, she always gave the same answer: a burning station, a broken girl, and a human who refused to let her die. Humans do not build monuments, she wrote in her final memoirs. They do not seek eternal glory. They simply see someone who needs help and choose to help. That is their gift to the universe, and that is why, in the end, they saved us all. The end.